Not the biggest, most packed session of this day, but I hope those of you here. So how many here are here because you couldn't be asked to move somewhere else? Oh, that's fine. So I'm going to talk a bit about the stuff we're doing with sustained engineering and why it is so important for you to stay on top of the patches. And so let me do some real polling this time. How many of you have downloaded and used a patch? Oh, that's quite a lot. That's good. And yeah, so that's basically everyone. So I'm talking to the wrong crowd here. But let me then go through why it's important and what we're doing with all these patches. So my name is Thomas. I'm managing both the QA department and also the support, and thus the sustained engineering department, which means it's sort of everything around releases. And a big part of that is obviously the patch train. Now, you need to get on board on that train. You are, obviously, most of you here, awesome. And why do I use trains? So, trains run on rails. You know where they're going. You have timetables. You know when they're going. Once they go, they're gone. You can't stop them there. When they do stop, they take on whatever is there, and then they move on. And there can only be so many trains on the tracks at the same time. How that relates to the patch trains is that they are on rails. They go to the latest released version. They have the timetables. They go out every week. Sometimes we go on several versions, but they go out every week. Once we release one patch, they accumulate. Patches, they have a strict deadline, so if the bug fix is not ready to go into the patch is going out anyway. And we can only handle so many versions at the same time. Now, if we go through what's going on internally and how we handle all this with the bugs, I'm going to have to point a bit here, so the most people are on this side, so I'm going to use the pointer here. So when we get these bugs in from you, we go through an internal process here. You send either a ticket to support or you send an incident through the bug reporter to the QA department. Now, what happened with all those incidents, those that we can process, because we get a lot of them, is that we go through and try and reproduce them. Now, once it's reproduced, it goes on as a bug into the sustained engineering team. Now, we did a full random sampling of it, and last time we were able to reproduce about 14% of them. The rest were duplicates or unable to reproduce. But those that we do get through to sustained engineering, and from here we triage them. We triage them either if they're so aggravating or important to you that we have to fix them fast, and if we can fix them in the SE team, then we do it internally. Some of the tech stack we're simply not able to do, and we need to get it into the development. Once developers have a fix, it goes back to the sustained engineering department, and they're the ones who package it up and releases as a patch to you users again. So all that process is about 50, 60 odd people just in that little few boxes here. So getting that running every week, all the time, takes a bit of effort. So I also want to go through briefly what we go through in our full releases of bigger phases, because it tells you a little bit about why we need to have you on the latest. So through an alpha, when we start a release, this is an example for 5.1. We start a release, we have 4 alpha releases. And then we do an exploratory test pass, we do a full test pass, which is everything that we have of manual test we run on many platforms. We do have 6 betas in between. And then we have another test pass, which is a release candidate full test pass, which is a bit destructive and just to make sure that we are covering the bases we have. And then we have 3 release candidates before we ship it. So that's the cycle we went through. That's the cycle you'll see on all of the releases we have on the roadmap. That's also why you'll see on the roadmap there are actually dates. So those dates are tracked on the same way. So in all of these, this is what a full release, this is what trunk is, mainline, the trunk going through this. When we go through all this, we branch off of trunk here, so everything here is directly on the main code line on our trunk. Now, when we start all of this, we have lots of branches. Everything you see on the roadmap, all these features, they are developed in their own branch, which means that in this time period, just before the alpha and during the alpha phase, all of these branches merge in and merge back, and conflicts happen, merge in and merge back. So there's a lot of movement on trunk. And that movement keeps going all the way through the beta phase, where we have all the bugs that are coming in, and we're fixing those on the 5.1. So the reason this is important is that when you are working on 5.0, while R&D is working on 5.1, and they have all of this going, all this running with 150 people, their code base is moving way beyond what is in 5.0 at this point. I mean, this is a month, 4,500 commits, but it's even more than that because the 4,500 is an average. And at that time pace here, that's where all the branches suddenly get merged into mainline, which means that you have a department where bug fixes are coming in on the last release product, but there are already tens of thousands commits in the other direction. So if we have something that we need to fix, we need to fix it in a way so it doesn't regress. And the only way for us to fix that is to do it in the right place. So say we want to have a fix for 4.6. We need to fix that in trunk. And then we need to move that down to 5.1. Now, I'm saying 5.1 now because we are actually in 5.2. So what was just released 2 weeks ago, we're already far into the alpha phase. We're soon going to beta. So we're already tens of thousands of commits away from what was released 2 weeks ago. And so a developer who makes that fix needs to put this down to 5.1. And then he needs to put it down to 5.0. And then he needs to put it down to 4.6. Because if we just fix this in 4.6, you'll see this as a regression when we release 5.2. Because, I mean, it worked in 4.6, right? So the amount of work that goes into all this is sort of what I talked about earlier today, because we need to release all of these versions with that fix in order to get you to that, to get that fix in your hands on 4.6. So this is a slide from earlier today, passing the QA gates. All of this needs to happen on all of those versions that we support. We pass the build verification test to even get it in, and we do that on all these versions. And we do all these, we verify all the boxes on these versions. We do a smoke test on it, and on some of them we do a full pass, some of them we don't. It depends a little bit on the risk on the bugs in the lower versions. But all this needs to happen on all these versions. Because if you are in a production on 5.0, you really don't want to take a patch where some of the bugs that have been fixed in there are not verified. So there's a ton of work going into this. Also, actually all of this is probably the biggest thing for us in relation to patches, is that all of this runs on all of these versions too. It's the main security we have once the product is shipped, is to be able to run all these 50,000 tests on each of these versions, on each of these patches. And we do it every night, and we check up and follow up whether some of it has gone red. And so the more versions we support, the bigger burden we put on ourselves and the more latency we have. So it gets increasingly hard to fix a bug as you go back in these versions. And that's also why when you see when you go to the site and see which patches we have, which patches we are shipping, they are obviously centered around the last version. So we were out with patch 1 for 5.1. We shipped that at 2 days after 5.0 shipped. And the reason we did that was that in order to make 5.1 stable at a shipping point, we can't introduce more churn on that code base. Which means that all the patches that go into 5.0 in that time couldn't be baked into 5.1. And so we have a patch that comes in just a few days after with all of that in. I think that was about $300 or something that went in there. So when I had that slide about all the bugs we have, that we have shipped, that's actually only for, I'm only counting the bugs in one of those versions. I'm not counting them for all of the versions. So it's a lot of movement. So this is one, in this one, I took in another line and said the number of patches we ship. So these are the pure patches that are going out, which means that we have a differentiation between those that are full editor releases that go through the update system that you get a warning about, and then we have the patches. So these are all the patches that are there. On top of that, we do the extra runs on QA on the full editor releases before we push the button and send it out to 1 million people. And all of these 73 releases, they are on just one version, but it's actually compounded, like I showed you, with all these versions up there. Now, 1,500 bugs fixed on a very short timetable. We're able to do it fast now because we trained on it, we worked on it, like you see in the beginning here. We only had a few of them, but as we've grown both the team and the ability to run all this automation and the QA on it, we're able to ship a lot faster with a better quality than we had before. So we want to continue that path. We are scaling up the team from just a handful to being a full team of about 20 people, working on only making sure that the fixes that we have in the pipeline, they are able to go in to the product. And like I said, we are hiring, so if you know good engine people, then please send them my way. Yeah. So, naming these patches, that's the naming scheme. You go from an F version. An F version is, for historic reasons, an F version. Anyways, that's the one that we push the button on. That's when we say it goes to the editor update and you'll get a notification on it. So from the F version, it goes to the first P1. So it stays within the 5.0, but it's the first patch on that. And then you P1 and P2, P3. And then when we have a collection of that, when we have accumulated a set of patches, then we bundle them up and we make a bigger test pass on it. And once that test pass is done, we press the button. Now, what happens here is that P3 contains P2, which contains P1. So they do accumulate over time. So it's not like you can handpick your patches. That would be very unwise of us to do. So so they do accumulate, but still we make the big test passes on the ones that where we press the update button. So like the full editor release, there's a huge manual test pass. We editor update them, and it's the latest version within a cycle. So it's the latest F version is the real latest. We don't count the patches as being the latest version. Because we don't actually advise you to take a patch unless you're affected by it, for the same reason that we don't give it the full manual test run as well. So take the patches that apply to you if you are affected by the bugs. If you want to prepare then for the next release and make sure that nothing hits you, then take it down and try and run your project on it. But we don't encourage you to actually just take that and be on the bleeding edge. What we want you to do is to make sure that you're on the latest full version, for the same reasons that I gave before. If you don't know, we put them up, and you can go and get an RSS feed. Make sure you're on top of that. So you're being alerted every time. And if you go to the side and press a little button, you'll see the full release notes with all the bugs in there, including links to the issue tracker if they're public bugs, so you can see if you're affected by it. So everything is kind of hooked up, linked up. And on that side, we only list the patches. We don't list the full versions because you should get those by automatically in the editor. I want to go through an example as well. Why this is what can happen if you don't. So your game. You're running through, you are prototyping it, and at some point in time you're going into production. Then you have the last final stage of stabilization. And let's say you have started out 501, F1. Then at some point in time in the prototyping phase here, you were hit by a bug and it was fixed in 5.1 P2, and you got that. And then you say, okay, but I'm not hit by more bugs. And I don't need to download and the editor update. I don't need it. I don't want to do. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm cool. And so, at some point in production, you say, I want to lock down. I don't want to do anything ever. I mean, this is it. We are full in, no risk. I don't want to take anything. And we see that. We have lots of customers who do that. They lock down sometime in production. And I can completely understand why. I would like to do that a lot more in Unity as well, but we have these 22 partners. They are not always, they don't always want to lock down at the same time as us, so we don't have that luxury. So you make that decision. And then sometime later you get this. You need a bug fixed. It could actually also be that at this time you need an update from, say, Apple, if you're making an iOS game. And if you need that, there is only one way that we can put that in, and that's in a later version. However, in the meantime, there's been, say, 246 fixes in the period where we have released all these patches. So instead of decreasing your risk by doing this lockdown here and not taking any of these patches, you're increasing the risk later in your production because you suddenly have to take a huge chunk of code that is churning on the engine. So the lockdown becomes a risk. So that's something, that's really what I would like to get you to take away from this, is that if you're not keeping up on at least the F versions on a version that you're on, and preferably also major versions, then you're you put yourself at a lot of risk, because we are using the ecosystem to funnel changes into Unity that then funnel into your game. So essentially, we are your engine team, and we need to be updated with the system, and you need your game to run on the system. It's even compounded more when you have your game released and you want to keep it alive. And they can go alive for 2-3 years. And you can't lock down on 5.0 for 3 years. For example, if you have a game out right now on 4.6, and it's an amazing game, and it creates, you earn lots of money with it, and you want to update it, well, we're sunsetting 4.6 in December, which means we're not going to patch that anymore. Which means that if iOS changes, if updates to Android, whatever, we're not going to patch that later than that. So you have to keep moving with the engine. You have to keep moving with the ecosystem that you're in. Everything is changing around you, so you can't stand still there either. So that's pretty much the message that I want to get away with here. You could have done this over time. I mean, you could have taken 50 fixes at a time here and reduced your own risk. That's part of the risk mitigation that you have to do on your side to have your game rolling. So I wanted to have a fair bit of time for questions, because I bet that there's got to be questions on this. There's got to be, yes.
Hello, thanks for presentation. My situation, I am moved to patch release because of our customers. We are building an SDK. And what will happen if new F release, like full release, will be released? Am I going to get this release automatically, or I have to follow an update and update editor like manually?
So you have.
I am on the patch.
Yes.
Am I going to get full release automatically, or should I do it manually?
You're going to get that automatically. So any release, if you're on any patch release in one point in time, let me go back and see if I can find the this one. So if you say like you're here, you're in 5.01 P2, and your question is whether you will get an automated update here. Yes, you will. So all the F versions are sent out by automatic updates. You'll get a notification.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, if there is no more?
There is one, but go ahead.
What is the best way to submit issues?
Through the bug reporter.
Through the bug reporter. But what should we include? Should we include what kind of sample projects you need? What's the minimum information you need?
Excellent question, because those 14% I was talking about. So we did a sample of 2,000 within a time period on 5.0, and we processed them completely to the end. And 14% of those actually turned out to be real bugs. That's very low. However, those 14% were incidentally the ones that we have an internal rating system where we put the rating on how good the incident was. And one of those is whether there's a project attached. So if you attach a project, make it easy for us to see the bug, then obviously we can reproduce it. If we can't reproduce the bug that you're experiencing, then we can't fix it because we can't prove we fixed it. So the whole talk about reproducing the bugs, that's the key of what we do with QA on the incidents we get from you. So we look at whether there's a project attached, files attached, if the description is, how long the description is. There's a correlation between that. And those three things kind of put in a rating system, and those with the highest rating, those are the ones that we can process. So yes, the bug reporter and preferably a project that shows the bug off.
Quick note, like what information about my setup is collected automatically? What should we include in this bug report?
If what?
What information about my operating system?
It's all there. You can see what's being sent. We send everything about your OS and everything. So,
yes. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything you can tell us about your test coverage? I mean, you showed a lot of tests, but is it like 100% or 80%?
No. It's not 100%, not at all. We have about 60% coverage, and I don't even think that we can get to 80% because a ton of the coverage is both in the platforms and it's a lot in the exception handling. It's just super hard to automate. Very expensive to get to that. We do want to get more, and as we add features, we want to add a lot of tests to increase coverage. But we are never going to get to 100 because it's simply not feasible. Oh, not off the top of my head. I don't have that number. I don't have it in my head where we're split out. Is there anything particular? Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so I was thinking now when you've released like the cloud build service, and me sitting like far away sometimes from the dev teams, have you had the idea to use like cloud service or cloud build to actually be able to use that for patch cycling? So that's, because that's one of the discussions that came up that I actually remember that they wanted me to ask. So that's great.
Good.
And it's just because like every time there's a new patch or there's these intermit patches, just a way to kind of push it up to cloud build to spit out the data to actually just leave it to someone else to do the builds and then just report to them. So.
Yes. Yes, use cloud build, and yes, we are pushing our builds to the cloud build service as well.
So all of them, so you can run multiple ones with multiple patches?
Yeah.
It's already there, I haven't, or is it, I haven't seen it since, I haven't tested cloud build since beta, so maybe I'm a bit...
Yes, I'm pretty sure we have gone down to it being individual patches. I know for sure the Fs are in there, I'm pretty sure we have the patches as well, which is a great point for cloud, because if you have your project on cloud build, if you have it in our system and we can update it automatically, you'll get the notification that now it's broken on this version, so you can build it on the old one, which means you don't even have to download it yourself to see that. So, excellent point, yes.
Hi, I'm Michael Spazirits from Outfit 7. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say, yeah, for everyone, try to follow what you said, basically update as frequently as you can, because we're doing that and it's really paid off for us. We're doing like updates for our apps and let's say every 4 to 2 weeks, and this really works for us because we put on new features, we get stuff broken in older releases. You fix something, but then maybe you break something else, and then maybe we wait for a release or two, but usually you get the stuff in that we need. So it's good to follow it because you'll see what else gets broken and you can report it, and the whole thing will be more stable if everyone contributes. Okay, and now the questions. First of all, a lot of times it happens, we have this like, huge projects on our side too, and just some stuff randomly stops working and you just can't pinpoint the problem. And also some because of legal stuff and blah blah blah. You know, I just can't give you the whole project, right? And then we're searching and searching, and when we can't find anything, we're just stripping down our project, and all the code goes out, and still nothing. We can't find the problem because basically some tester has to poke some stuff on some Android device for I don't know how long. So this happens, you know. Is there anything you can do in that case? I mean, is there? We can probably describe what happens. Maybe there's like an indication you can give us somehow. Maybe try this. Maybe this is broken or something. Because a lot of times we just can't pinpoint this stuff.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the core of the problem of making a repro, because you see the issue.
Yeah.
But you then say that there is an issue and we need to reproduce it, but you see it intermittently and we don't even know what it is unless we have the project and can try it ourselves. So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah, but from maybe your developer side, maybe someone would, if he would, I don't know, see the description or something. Sometimes I would like just for them to see what we're saying, because we're not just
no.
something.
No, but I totally see.
So maybe they can help us. You know, maybe this is wrong. Try this, and you'll get it, or something. It's
the best thing I can do is to ask something on the forums, because that's where you have the bulk of people. You need many eyes on it. You need to catch if someone has something similar. If you said that you had a crash, that would be different, because then we have a call stack. We have something to work on.
Yeah.
But it's virtually impossible for us.
Usually for us, we have the support, you know, the whatever payable support you provide, and then usually what happens is we report like a crash there, maybe something hardcore really crashed in, let's say in Mono or somewhere, some I don't know, some
Mono.
stuff, and then there isn't much you can do, because you don't maybe see the whole stack. You don't see our whole solution, and somehow I'd like to see like this big community to contribute basically all the crashes to your.
Yes, let me tell you something that we are doing, because we are actually whenever you get a crash in Unity, please press the submit button.
Yeah. Because
we're gathering that, and we're making.
If it happens on the device to some user.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another story.
We actually have a service for that.
Yeah.
The crash reporting, but that's for your project specifically.
That's for us. Do you have access to that? Do you look at, I don't know, other people's project? This crashed, but then you have to separate your crashes from theirs.
Yes, and then it becomes tricky. Yes.
Yeah.
But we do want to get to that eventually.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
The timing is.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. But if you have more questions, please come to the speaker's corner, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have there.
That's great. Right. Thank you, Charles.